I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Hey, look. You know I got a special guest. I'm not gonna bore you to death with the 30-minute monologue or a 2-minute monologue. I'm gonna get right into it. This kid is, in my opinion, Michael Jordan in the 80s, the 1986 April 20th game where he dropped 63 points. But see, Black Conservative Perspective drops 63 points every video he drops. Let me bring him up. What's up, Black Conservative Perspective?
What's good, chaotic? I don't know, man. I don't necessarily know how I feel about the Jordan comparison. That's lofty. That's very lofty.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people believe in you. I mean, I think you. I think every video you do, you drop 63 points. Go ahead.
I mean, I try to do the best I can, but I don't think I'm necessarily Jordan, but I try to work hard. I try to have the Jordan Kobe work ethic. The stories about Kobe, getting up at 4 a.m. and hitting the gym, and trying to emulate Michael. I'm trying to have that type of work ethic, right? That's what I want to display, but I don't necessarily know if I'm at that level yet. I think I've got a long way to go before we start making those types of comparisons, but I appreciate it.
No problem, man. Guys, salute to everybody in the chat. Positivity is coming your way, guys. It is a beautiful, beautiful April 30th. The dog days of spring are almost over. We got like 2 more months, but the weather's beautiful. I'm sending out positivity to you all. Me and Black Conservative Perspective, we have a lot to talk about today, a multiplicity of topics, but we're just going to let the conversation flow. One of the main topics is about the FBA versus, not versus, you think, Greg, but more like...
It's definitely versus, bro.
Okay.
It's versus. And see, this is the thing. I want to talk to you about this because, I'm not real. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm an individual type of person, right? I'm individualistic. That's a part of conservatism, is the individual, right? The individual's work ethic, the individual's work, what they put into it is basically going to affect their outcome. However, what I've been saying, and I've just been watching as an observer from afar, I don't really, partake in the conversation, is that there is this beef between what they call foundational Black Americans and tethers, right? You would be the tether because you're African. And the argument is that you are benefiting off of everything that foundational Black Americans have done, aka descendants of slaves. And that is a conversation that I really want to have with you because I want to know your perspective on it. I have some a perspective on it as well too, but I don't really have a dog in the fight. I feel like you've kind of been in that fight. In fact, one of the first times I heard about you is I actually did a video of Tariq Nasheed coming after you for some comments that you were making, I believe, about African immigrants and their work ethic and their success versus Black Americans. And that's when I really started to pick up on this conversation. I was like, why is there so much beef between so-called people of color, especially so-called Black folks? Because Black folks now seem to be separating themselves and saying, look, we're not the same as Africans, which I mean is true, right? Culturally to a certain extent. And you can, say yay or nay on that. But it's just fascinating because usually they lump all the so-called people of color together. But for some reason, when it comes to this, FBA versus, African thing, it's, there's some tension there. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let me broach that real quick. And I don't want to ball hog the conversation, man, because you're the special guest. In a few sentences, just to nip it in the bud, this whole FBA nonsense came about by race hustlers, race scam artists, Tariq. And this is just me saying it. This isn't Black Conservative Perspective saying it. This is chaotic truth. Tariq Nasheed is a race hustler. Brother Polite is a race hustler. Umar Johnson is a race hustler. They have no other talents but to sell racism and suppression. So Tariq Nasheed especially has created this whole FBA nonsense. It's funny that FBA are people who cry racism and oppression, but they're trying to do the very same tactics that they believe has happened to them on Africans. Here goes the fact of the matter is, Black Conservative Perspective.
Yeah.
FBA is a small group of African Americans of slave descent, supposedly. Very small. It's a subgroup of people who are weed smokers, alcohol drinkers, incense burners. They're losers. They're not winners. They've been in this country for hundreds of years, and they haven't been able to capitalize off all the resources in this country. So when they see Africans coming over here, when they see Arabs coming over here, when they see people coming over here, and within one generation, they have gone from rags to riches, they get jealous of them. And that's the whole problem with them. Go ahead.
Bruh. No. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I agree. I agree. I'm just saying, as somebody who doesn't have a dog in the fight, I guess I can consider myself to be FBA. I don't know, right? I honestly, I'm not interested in the slavery conversation. I'm not interested in a reparations conversation. I'm too busy doing me and trying to get ahead of my life. You know what I'm saying? To be interested in grievances of the past that I had nothing to do with. I personally don't care if my family was a descendant of slaves. I have no interest in going back and looking at it and talking about it because it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's funny how you have, again, this grievance industry where people want to get so upset about what happened in the past, when the truth of the matter is, like you said, America's been the land of opportunity despite the discrimination, the systemic racism that we all acknowledge happened, okay? And it still happens today to a certain extent, right? But it's Asian people, African people, it's almost like any immigrant group that comes over here, even you can say Latinos to a certain extent, right? They come over here and they prove every single day collectively that the so-called oppression is not so bad that you can't overcome, but you still got black people claiming that they can't overcome. They can't, for whatever reason, we can't get past the evil white man. I'm like, well, how's everybody else outperforming the white man? Specifically, the Asian people, right? Academically, how are they outperforming whites if the system is so systemically racist? But again, when you look at, the marriage rates among Asian folks is comparable to whites. Okay. I mean, black people have lower marriage rates, but it's not that bad, but it's lower marriage rates. They have lower rates of single motherhood. I mean, they just have a different culture. And I think that is the obvious answer to why there's a difference, but nobody wants to acknowledge the obvious answer that basically tells people, okay, this is why this disparity exists. This is why you have certain minority groups that can come over here and succeed. And then you have other minority groups who have been here forever, who still just, it seems to me, can't figure it out. Now, that's not to say that all black people can't figure it out. Clearly, there are black people that have figured it out, like a Thomas Sowell, or a Ben Carson, or all these guys that, black people say are sellouts and Toms. I'm like, bro, they got the formula right there. They're telling you what you need to do in order to, to be successful. They're actually showing you that it is possible. But it seems like as black people, we don't embrace the people that actually are showing us a path to success. Instead, we embrace the worst among us. For example, like the criminals, okay, the rappers, the models, like everything that really just is not conducive to actually competing with the white man. You know what I'm saying? Like people claim they want to do. So, I mean, to me, that conversation is just so fascinating to see the back and forth, because I'm just like, clearly the people that are, FBA, they seem to be more obsessed with grievance culture and trying to get paid for something they never went through, reparations. And I just don't think it's ever going to happen. I think that it's a pipe dream that's being sold to people. As again, it's a grift, right? Something that's never going to happen, and they know it's not going to happen. But at the end of the day, victimhood is the most valuable currency in this country in 2023, in my opinion.
Black conservative perspective. You hit it right out the ballpark, my good sir. You mentioned the Asians. You mentioned a lot of affluent blacks. Yeah. This is what I have to say to anybody who identifies as an FBA and they're dog walking or they're trying to dog African immigrants. Yeah. Here goes the thing. You got to look yourself in the mirror, FBA. You got to look yourself and say, listen, I'm a loser. That's what you have to look yourself in the mirror and say. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to say this. It is shameful when I hear Black Americans of slave descent crying. The wealthiest Black people in the African diaspora are Black Americans of slave descent. You got the wealthiest. First of all, over 2 million Black Americans in this country have a net worth over $1 million.
Yeah.
If Black Americans were a nation state, $2 trillion in spending power. That means that they will be a very, very that if that was a country, that GDP right there will be number 9 or number 8 if that was a country.
Yeah.
African Americans have the highest. I'm talking about a slave descent, have the highest standard of living, the better human rights than most people in the diaspora. And the Black Islands, South America. Listen, your average African American in America is living 10 times better than a Black Brazilian, than a Black Guyanan, than a Black Ghanaian, than a Nigerian. What has happened is that you've allowed a culture of, like you say, this crime culture has created a culture of people that have not recognized poor patterns of behavior. So they're the media, Comedy Network News, CNN, they create these race packages and they sell them racism. So it's convenient when they smoke weed, act a fool, police knock them over the side of the head when they're doing a crime. They can easily blame it on racism. And that is an FBA mindset. I can name Black banks. I do it all the time on the Lapeef Network and my own show. I can name Black banks started by Black Americans of slave descent. I can name Black engineering firms. I've done it before. I can name Black equity firms. John Rogers is a billionaire. He's the guy who beat Michael Jordan 1-on-1, by the way. Black, slave descent. My fraternity brother, Robert Smith. He's a Black American of slave descent. In this country, you work hard. And you succeed. Let me tell you something, Black conservative perspective. When I was in college 20 years ago, sir, you know what happened when I walked past the mathematics building and science building? You know who I didn't see? Black people of slave descent. You know where I saw them at? They were burning incense, wearing dashikis, beating on drums outside of the African Studies building. It's about choices. It's not about no goddamn slavery. I don't want to ball hawk though, man. But
no, you're not. No. When I I'll tell a story. When I was in high school, I went to an elite high school, an early college. So my early college is basically like a school where you take AP classes your 9th and 10th grade year, and then the 11th and 12th grade year, you take actual college classes.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Campus, right? So it's a competitive program to get into. Okay, it's tough. It's difficult. I don't know how the hell I got into it because I'm basically not that smart. But I got in, so I was there. And one thing I noticed, I was the only Black person. Every other Black person was African, and they all had like some of the same like common things in regards to 2-parent households. Valuing hard work, studying, being on top of their responsibilities, jobs. Like it was just like, it's like, how in the world do you have an elite high school and most of the Black people are African, and they make up a minority of these so-called Black people in this country? And that's something that I have just observed just growing up in school. Is just like, well, all the most successful so-called Black folks tend to be African, and they all just come from a different background. Like they're just different.
Mm-hmm. You know why? Because first of all, most of the planet, and this is what I love to tell a lot of FBAs. I'm talking about people who identify as these what I would say these FBI sexuals. What they do is that they have a hyper vigilant attitude about themselves. They don't look at the world for what it really is. They don't look at other people's atrocities. The average FBA doesn't know a goddamn thing about the Uyghurs in China. The average FBA couldn't care less about a Ukrainian getting their face blew off. The average foundational Black American couldn't care about the million Tutsis that were killed in Rwanda. They don't give a damn. What they care about is themselves, and they're selfish. And a lot of these people are absolutely, in my opinion, anti-American, anti-capitalist, anti-hard work. And what happens is that, again, these Africans, when they come over here, they come from shitholes. Listen, some of the poorest places on the planet are in Africa. I knew girls that came from Liberia, from Rwanda. I knew girls in college that came from all these places, and they came over here. Listen, even when I was in college, I dated a Rwandan. her family was massacred, came over here. She never gave any excuses about what happened in 1994 in April. She never gave any excuses. She came over here. She became a doctor. The thing of the matter is that FBA people are the only people that are allowed to bitch and complain. But what happens is that when they see these Africans who are coming over here working hard, they see the roads that are paved. They see the nice infrastructure. They see all the police are not corrupt like they are in Nigeria and Liberia.
Yeah.
Liberia really doesn't even have fucking police.
They
They see the beauty of this country. They see it for what it really is, and they come over here. They generally abide by the law and they work hard. The average FBA has been told to hate the cops. The average FBA is disorderly, and the average FBA really wants, in my opinion, anarchy. They want chaos. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you made an interesting point about the conditions in these other countries, because when I travel to other countries, I noticed the same thing. I mean, like, police are corrupt, the infrastructure sucks, but you have people that are working like hard. Okay, they are grinding. Okay, for pennies. Okay, I mean, it's crazy to witness, and it's like, yeah, if you take somebody from that country and you bring them over here to the United States, where there's way more resources, there's way more opportunities, they see, oh yeah, like you said, the roads. I mean, even something as simple as the roads being paved, right? It's like just having that infrastructure, having those resources, having all things right. They see this like, oh, this is easy. All I got to do is just put in the same amount of hustle and grind, and like, in one generation, they're going from poverty to upper middle class. And it's like, it's the same thing, man. Like, I hang out with a whole lot of Indian folks. Okay. Like, I rock with, I'm talking about red dot, red dot, Indian folks. And it's like, they got a whole culture about it. They're like, we're going to go out and buy gas stations. Okay. We're going to buy hotels. We're going to pool our money together. We're going to buy this stuff. We're going to work from, 6 a.m. to 10 or whatever. And it's the same thing across all these different groups. And it's just like, it's simple, but I guess, I guess there is something to be said about being Black and being here and not having that same perspective, and, not going to these other countries and seeing, the work ethic and seeing what they don't have, where I think you really don't have a perspective to know, okay, I really don't have it that bad. Like, I really have the world at my fingertips. I just need to apply myself. And I think that, some of it is really not their fault as much as they're just ignorant about the world, man. I really do feel like that's just kind of what it is to a certain extent.
That's a possibility, but it's always Negroes like me. And I'm a self-identified Negro whisperer. It's always Negroes like me that will remind, particularly people who are FBA, you are the wealthiest Blacks on the planet. It's shameful and disgraceful when you fail and then you blame it on racism. It will be better if you looked in the mirror and just said, you know what? I effed up. Let me pull myself up from the boot and correct what I messed up doing instead of blaming the white man. And that's what a Negro like me, I think that's why the universe has placed me here, to constantly remind Blacks of that. And I'm glad that people like you exist too, man, because again, these race narratives are supported in education. When I was teaching, you had teachers that literally said that, oh, Johnny can't do math because of systemic racism. I said, no, Johnny can't do math because he's an effing idiot and he doesn't want to study. That's why. I was in go ahead.
Yeah, no, when I was in college at UNC Chapel Hill, I'll never forget this. I had this one professor. He was a liberal, progressive white guy. I was taking like a high-level sociology class or something like that. And they made us watch the documentary 13. And his whole narrative was just about how bad Blacks got in this country. And I wrote an essay, and I basically argue in class as well too about how basically with the progression of technology and where we're at as a country in regards to opportunity, when you consider affirmative action, when you consider all these things that have been put in place for Black people to succeed, that there is no excuse. And he was just fascinated by me. I got an A in that class, but he was fascinated by the fact that I was a Black male, not playing the victimhood card, basically arguing that no, I don't believe this narrative. I don't care about what happened in the past. Here are all the reasons why Black people can succeed. And he was just fascinated by it, right? It's just funny because they do push that in college, I witnessed it for myself, and it was a crazy thing to observe at the time.
Yeah. I've gone on panels, Black conservative perspective, and I see Black women, especially, and who identify as FBA. And I'm not going to call their names out. They say, the white man, he holding us back. And the African, I'm like, shut up. The first wealthy woman in the country, I'm sorry, not the first wealthy, but the first woman that was a millionaire was a Black woman. See, when you hit the FBA with facts, my good sir, they're going to argue, they're going to protest, but a lot of them at the core know the truth. Yeah. And you have to constantly remind them. Remind the FBA. Hey, FBA, did you realize in Sudan right now people are getting hacked to death? Do you realize that there's no running water? Do you realize that there's no libraries all over in every damn neighborhood? Do you realize? See, you gotta constantly remind them of this, man. You gotta constantly remind the dumb FBA, hey, FBA, no African is in competition with you. You've won by birthright. If you're born in America, you won the genetic lottery.
Yeah, you won the lottery. Yeah, exactly.
Because people are literally dying to get over here.
Yeah.
But back to your teacher, though, you're absolutely right, man. This liberal teacher was probably fascinated in you because he realized that he couldn't pull a game over you, and he knows that he's trying, and that's what it is. He's selling the seat, and that's what a lot of these liberals do. They don't work that hard in life. They get some liberal little adjunct professorship job at some college selling women's studies, selling some sort of horse shit, African studies, and they need people in seats. So they go to these little organizations and say, hey man, they don't have any Black people that are on the board of directors for the school. That's a little racist, isn't it? Come to my class. And that's how they get you. Yep. Yeah. But then a person like me says, maybe they don't have anybody on the board of directors because maybe nobody Black wants to be on the board of directors, maybe. And then start naming other colleges where there are Blacks on the board of directors. Or hell, just start naming all Black colleges. That's how you destroy a liberal's argument.
Yeah, well, it is funny because, they always want to focus on the aspects of history that are like, the worst. But see, like Black Wall Street, Tulsa, right? Oklahoma. They love this story. And I'm just like, it's funny because they say, well, we built our own, we had our own thing. Black Wall Street, and the white man came and burned it down. Well, I'm like, well, the story's a little bit more complicated than that. But you always forget that Black Wall Street was rebuilt. Okay. It was rebuilt, and it actually went away during integration. Okay, that's when it actually went away or disintegrated, right? Doing integration. You always leave out the part that, hey, even though, it was burned down or whatever, it was rebuilt. Like, it is possible. Why do you keep focusing on the fact that it was, burned down or whatever? Like, it's stuff like that that really bothers me because it's like, you're not even trying to focus on what can you do? What can you achieve? Rather than what can't you achieve and why can't you achieve it when clearly it's possible, right? So again, a lot of people just say, well, it doesn't matter what we do as Black people because the white man just go, sabotage anyway. So it is what it is. I'm just like,
in Black conservative perspective, this is where the Negro whisperer comes in.
Yeah.
If they wanted to sabotage Black intellectualism, they would have done it with the Divine Nine, the Black Greeks. My fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, December 4th, 1906, was founded at an Ivy League school. Ivy League. How come nobody stopped my seven founders? Black people make all the excuses in the world. You have Black associations, Black library, lawyer associations. You have Black engineering associations, Black mathematical associations that go back almost 100 years. Nobody has destroyed that, in my opinion. And now I'm going to be honest with you. Black Wall Street was probably 2 blocks, like a street or two of 1 or 2 story buildings, and we don't really know what happened back then. But I'll tell you this: Black people have always had Black Wall Streets. Harlem was so goddamn successful, they called it the Harlem Renaissance. No white people burnt that shit down. Black people have Harlem. Jackson, Mississippi. Isn't that Black Wall Street right now? Detroit, isn't that Black Wall Street? A Negro like me would listen. See, that's why Tariq Nasheed made the video about me. They don't like me because I tell the truth. we have always had Black Wall Street.
Street,
And
yeah.
yes, one of them probably did get destroyed.
Joy.
What did the damn do? The Jews, I'm not the Jews, I'm sorry, the Japanese were interned during World War II.
Yeah.
George Takei, who played Sulu in Star Trek, he talks about how he was a kid. Him and his family were in prison just for being Japanese. And you know what? He said, I still love this country. It was a hard time. We understand our people were looked at as enemies. Even though we were Americans, we've moved on. The fact of the matter is that a lot of people have gone through things as well. You don't hear Kim Kardashian talking about the Armenian genocide, do you? People will use any type of excuse because they're losers. And this whole Black Wall Street thing typically is losers. You won't hear John Rogers talking about it. You won't hear wealthy blacks talking about it because it has nothing to do with them. And they've worked hard in life. They don't think about that. But losers think about Black Wall Street. Go ahead. Sorry. I don't want to overtalk.
No, you're not overtalking me. No, bro. It's a conversation, man. No, Look, I tend to agree with you, man. And, it's weird for me because, again, I think some people are going to, watch this and say, oh, man, look at this sellout, blah, blah. I'm not selling out. I'm just saying as a black person, so-called FBA, I don't really know. I mean, I guess they would classify me as FBA. But I just see the African work ethic. I've, been around immigrants my whole life. And I'm just like, there's a difference. Like, there's a clear cultural difference. And I think that is probably what makes up for a lot of the discrepancy. Also, on top of that, they don't talk enough about some of these, the Democrat policies throughout the years, like the Great Society, for example, that, incentivize black women to marry the government and not necessarily black men. And how, yes, we do talk about black men being incarcerated and stuff like that as well, too. But again, a lot of that stuff, they don't really focus on how we have disincentivized nuclear families, and that the black family, again, partially because of the government, right? But we're talking about Democrats here more than anything. Democrat policies, they don't really want to acknowledge that, has contributed to the destruction of the black community. I mean, even doing segregation, crime was lower. We had higher marriage rates. Okay, black people were doing okay, right? Clearly, it wasn't great. But black people clearly were in a better space culturally than we are today. And I think that avoiding the cultural conversation is how we have ended up in the place that we're in now. We have some of these interliberal cities, for example, like Chicago, where you saw the riots, the teenagers, going into the street, destroying stuff, destroying businesses. And then you got these fools going out here and making excuses for them. Well, they're kids and, you can't be too mean to them and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, you got news clips of black ghetto baby mamas literally tearing up gas stations because they're like stealing vehicles and flipping them over in the street, like right outside of Chicago. It's like, these are the people that are raising these kids. Okay. And that is where a lot of these issues are coming from. And we're not talking about that enough. We're not focusing on that. We're not focused on the fact that we have leadership, race hustlers like Al Sharpton. Again, you got, all these black progressive politicians that are pushing policies. For example, being soft on crime, letting people just tear up the neighborhood, letting people just destroy businesses. You got to the point where black business can't even survive in Chicago. I did a story a long time ago, not a long time, maybe like a year or two ago, where you had two black men, two successful black entrepreneurs had a clothing store that was robbed out of business in Chicago because Negroes kept stealing too much. They had to leave. So even if you're black and you open up a business in a black neighborhood like in Chicago, you got to worry about not the white man and destroyed it. You got to worry about black people destroying it, And the problem is that people don't want to acknowledge this. And then you had these fools out here boohoo-whining, complaining about Walmart in Chicago closing. Well, you guys are leaving us and taking our jobs, and we don't like the fact that you're leaving. It's like, bro, you've literally steal from them so much that they can't turn a profit. And it's not like any black folks are going to go and start their own grocery stores or anything like that. Because again, like Walmart, it's going to get robbed out of business. So you know what I'm saying? It's stuff like that where you see it happening. And then you see the so-called leadership that refuses to acknowledge the real problems. And it's frustrating because we can't ever go anywhere if people don't want to acknowledge the real issues and talk about what is actually happening in these interliberal cities, which is uncontrolled crime that is being facilitated by these soft on crime progressive policies, which in my opinion are the biggest domestic terror threat to this country. You talk about white supremacy. I'm not saying while the white supremacy is making businesses literally leave cities, exodus these cities. We have people getting shot and killed and murdered, kids every single day. You know, I'm not seeing this stuff coming from the so-called white supremacists. I'm saying this coming from these interliberal cities, man.
Sir.
And it's harming black folks more than anybody.
Sir, the last 5 minutes of you talking, sir, is the equivalent of if you had been on the Titanic, it would not have sunk, sir. You would have been in there patching up every hole, sir. That's how brilliant you would have been, sir. I have been saying this for years. For years. And guys, by the way, this is the opinions of the chaotic truth, not like conservative perspective.
Probably similar. Probably not too off base.
You got. I don't want people to think that you are endorsing this. The reason why you had all those little nigglets in Chicago acting like fools is because of, like you say, broken households. But you have this thing in the black community about not snitching. Yeah. You're going to have to start tattletelling on Negroes. You got to nip things in the bud. See, black conservative perspective, a lot of black people, and I talked about this earlier between the whole FBA and African thing. A lot of these FBAs are anti-American. The same goes with a lot of these broken homes. They're anti-American. They've brainwashed themselves. They're mad at the real because, you know, they're mad at the real. They failed in life. So they have these kids. So the little niglet is littering. May not be a bad thing, but the little niglet starts littering. Nobody says anything. The little niglet starts hanging outside of a gas station. Nobody says anything. The little niglet starts breaking into cars. Oh, it's just a harmless. Oh, he's just a kid. Nobody says anything because the black community has this culture of crime that nobody wants to talk about. But if me and you talk about it, or if Officer Tatum talks about it, if Candace talks about it, we're viewed as Uncle Toms. Yeah. But see, we're trying to prevent a cataclysmic event. At least I am. The cataclysmic event is what happened in Chicago. The drive-by shootings, the little children getting shot because Negroes can't aim, shooting at each other. This all starts from you not correcting little niglet behavior when they're 7 and 8 and 9 years old. People get mad at me, black conservative perspective, because I say I'm in love with the white Karen. Not all white Karens, but the idea of the white Karen. The white Karen wants to prevent cataclysmic events. So, for example, you will have a park, right? And I've seen, and I'm like 10 years older than you, so I've seen communities destroyed in my lifetime, sir. Yeah. I mean, literally. So I'm almost 40, and you know how they get destroyed? because we don't have Karens in our community. See, it starts with stuff like this: a park. Let's say the park has let's say the park says you can't bring any dogs in here, right? Well, Negroes will bring dogs in the park. So the Negro is already breaking the law. It's a little ordinance. But see, a lot of Negroes would then say, well, shoot, I could smoke weed in the park. Well, the sign says you can't bring a dog, but it also says you can't have any drugs in the park either. But because you've already broken one law, you'll break another one. Yeah. Then you'll have Negroes shooting dice. Yeah. And what comes with shooting dice? Well, Negroes have been shooting each other for over 100 years on dice games. Yeah. So then kids won't come to the park because moms are afraid to go. My God, they're afraid to go to the park. So then the park goes into decay. So now you have blight on the community because nobody's in the park. The city is not going to come and cut the grass and make sure the swing sets are working because ain't nobody using it. So then now you get prostitution in the park. You get dudes getting BJs in the park, drugs, ice games, shootouts. And now a park has been destroyed because you don't have the Karen in the community. Because the black community has a no snitching policy, and that is why I stay away from Negroes a lot of the time. Because for some reason, a lot of people in the black community, we don't want to talk about this. There is this anti-American, anti-order. It's almost like we want anarchy. And who are our chief? Who are the chief individuals who want this? Patrisse Cullors, defund the police. That right there in itself tells you the idiocy of a lot of people in the black community. Defund the police, but this is just the words of chaotic. This big bitch lives in a gated community around white people. Security out the ass.
No, you're right. You're right. I think what you were talking about, I think it's like broken windows policing, like theory, where it's like if you see a bunch of small crimes and stuff, like it's going to lead to bigger crimes and more chaos and stuff like that. I think it's something similar to that, what you was talking about in regards to, you see the small stuff and then, you got more bigger stuff that comes from it because of this small stuff that happens. It's a symptom of what's going on. But you're right. I mean, the people that are the agents of chaos, like a Patrisse Cullors, the leaders of Black Lives Matter, the Al Sharptons of the world, the race hustlers, they are living in gated white communities, away from the black community, away from the black people, right? And then they go and they advocate for policies and positions that do nothing but cause more chaos and destruction. Again, like, defund the police. And it's just, it's fascinating that nobody's picked up on that obvious grift, right? It's obvious that you ain't really down with the team like that. Because if you were so down, why are you not in the black community? Why are you not living there? You're not living in these places, right? But you're living among somebody that you claim is the enemy. You're living with whites. Why is that? And come on. Like,
it's because these people, again, Patrisse Cullors, her big ass didn't major in quantum mechanics. Her big ass didn't major in petroleum engineering. Her big ass majored in underwater basket weaving, which a lot of these FBAs do. And so they start selling. Race has become a commodity. It's become a commodity. It's become a economic package, and they sell racism. And the hottest commodity amongst racism, or the hottest item to sell, was the George Floyd thing. It boosted ratings for CNN and other liberal markets. It allowed for people to create nonprofits. Black Lives Matter. We're talking about $1 billion created over a dope fiend. This is the words of chaotic truth, by the way, not Black conservative perspective. All this money created off of a criminal, a man who is a career criminal. And my God, it's up to people like me, my good sir, who are the Negro Whisperer. I'm gonna always say something, because our community cannot go into the new age with this same backwards behavior. Africans, African Americans, island blacks, we have to rid ourselves of our primitive past, man. You can't be shooting dice going into space, man. I feel like that's what's about to happen. We're gonna be the only people worrying about race, and you got people trying to go to the moon, Mars, etc. Worrying about race, worrying about slavery. Those people do this. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, everybody else is getting ahead, right? They worried about the future.
Yeah.
And we worried about the past. And everybody else is like, okay, yeah, you're right. We're going into space. Negroes gonna be in space shooting dice. Talking about
shooting at each other in the spaceship. And it's like, dude, we can't act like this. So the thing is that we have to, like I said, you do the work of the Lord every day, man. You put out, I'm telling you, man, you put out gem after gem after gem of great content. The only way it could be fixed is if people like us bring this, or make this, bring this into awareness. And it's the truth, man. You gotta do it. Listen, I was a school teacher, Black conservative perspective, for years, man. And people didn't like me, man, because I used to tell it like it is. Why isn't Tyrone doing well? Well, he comes into class high. He comes in high. You, the liberal white woman teacher, you're doing Dr. Seuss with him, and he's 14 years old, and you're high-fiving him when the dummy does basic arithmetic, and he's pushing 19 years old. Stop it! You're not pushing these kids to compete in a global market that is changing at an exponential rate right now. You're gonna have to be technologically savvy in the future. I mean, right now, you're gonna have to have all this. You're gonna have to have all these superlatives with you, and you can't go into this future with a primitive, backwards ass mindset. And that's the difference. I will admit with a lot of African immigrants, they don't. Black conservative perspective. How many African immigrants, any country, have you ever heard of talk about colonialism? Colonialism is the reason why. Now that's the difference. Colonialism ended in some countries just 50 years ago. You don't hear a peep from Nigerians, a peep from people from Ghana, a peep from Liberians, a peep from people from Niger. I don't know if any Nigerians are here, but you don't hear a peep from none of these people because they understand that they understand that maybe, and I gotta say this, maybe colonialism civilized us, pushed us to the future and made our country better. Or maybe, hey man, I was born in 1990. I have nothing to do with that. Maybe they think like that, but that's how a lot of people think. You don't hear Chinese people talking about Mao Zedong and all this. They did this, man. You don't hear that shit only with these FBAs, and it's annoying at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, man. I mean, I'm not African, so I really don't know about what Africans are talking about. But yeah, I don't think I've ever heard one, at least the ones I've been around, talk about, colonialism. I mean, I think we can all kind of agree that colonialism, let's keep it real, was a net positive, right, on the world. We got a whole lot of modern innovation from colonialism, and I'm happy that happened. Be quite honest with you. I'm not mad.
I see. I didn't know. Okay, so we do have the same mindset then. Listen, I gotta say this, man. Most of the planet pre-colonialism was in the goddamn agricultural age. Some people were even in the Stone Age for the most part. For some reason, the Brits, the French, for some reason, I don't know, they were just technologically advanced. They had a higher level of civilization. They wanted to civilize other people. Look, let's use Congo. Rubber had already been in the damn trees for eons. How come that dumb African never figured out how to extract the rubber and build a goddamn fire with it himself? Nobody was in Africa for eons. This is why I get chaotic with people, man. It's because it's not just my opinion, it's the truth. You hear all these FBAs crying. They stole the resources. We was already in the Americas. Well, if you were already here, you dumb motherfucker, why didn't you build? Why didn't you construct? Why didn't you nationalize the language? Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Well, it's the white man's fault, and that's just what it is. And the crazy part is that the mainstream local media does their best to try to try to deflect from what's actually happening. Like, I'm not sure if you saw that segment that Mindy Hassan did on MSNBC, where he got upset at Bill Maher for basically asking questions about where are the black celebrities, where are all the people that are talking about Black Lives Matter when you have this chaos and destruction going on in these inner cities and black folks killing each other. He just simply asked a question, and Mehdi Hassan tried to say the guy was a racist, right? He's a white supremacist, tried to say, well, white people kill each other at a comparable rate as black. So I'm like, duh, that's like basic statistics. Yes, most likely you're going to have a violent crime or be murdered by somebody that looks like you of the same race. But we're talking about who commits a vast majority of the murders in this country disproportionately. It's not even a conversation. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a fact. I hate this. I mean, like, I hate saying it as a black person, but 13% of the population, over 50% of the murders. When you talk about violent crimes, again, disproportionately represent violent crimes as well, too. It's like when you have those type of statistics, you can't just deflect and say, well, there's no problems here. There's nothing going on here. Well, look at white people. They kill each other, too. And it's like, well, it's, again, as a proportion of the murders, right? Or the murderers and the people being murdered, both. Black
Yeah.
people are way overrepresented. You know, they love these arguments about
Yeah.
you know, proportionality when it comes to everything else. Like, oh, you know, black people are
Yeah.
killed more by police than everybody else. You know, that's not fair. That's not good. But then when it comes to, okay, well, black people murder more people than everybody else. Well, you can't really you can't say that. You can't talk about that, right? Like, it's crazy.
It's like it's a child mindset. Um, you can't talk to a lot of people with logic and reason and mathematics. Here goes the people who make up 13, no, better yet, here goes black men who make up 6% of the US population and commit half the murders. Somebody who's FBA, Tariq Nasheed, say, well, white people commit half the murder. Of course they do. They're 75% of the population. You're only 6 and you commit. But see, that doesn't matter. It's always blaming the white man. It's always blaming Whitey. Whitey. The first way to correct the problem is to look at oneself. And that's what I think that all of us do as black conservatives, man, who create content, especially. We got to look at ourselves, man. And like I said before, these same people who will blame, who will say something about white people, will run to go live around. Well, if they commit all these murders, why you running to go live around
them? Yeah, exactly.
Why you send your kids to their schools? Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. These people are so bad, right? Why are you sending your kids to these all white private schools?
You know what schools the Obama kids going to?
Exactly.
Private schools in Virginia.
We don't even.
Not DC, not Washington DC, not any of those schools, not Baltimore, not any of those schools. Alexandria, Virginia, Fairfax, like the white man land.
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's absolutely crazy, man. Absolutely. But like I said before, man, the issue with crime in America, particularly with blacks, is that a lot of I don't know what you believe in per se in terms of history, in terms of like science or religion. I really believe we're some sort of an ape.
Yeah.
Again, this is just chaotic truth talking. I believe that we're some sort of an ape. I believe that we still have primal instincts. We're still primitive to a degree, but we're able to become self-aware and identify ourselves as, hey man, we can be better. And I feel like when you don't suppress that that primal instinct, then you have these little savages walking around, these little animals walking around. And me and my best friend, he's in the chat all the time, Blue Cousin, we call it nigga nucleic acid. Like it's like a strand of DNA. I think we all have it. And if you don't identify it and suppress it, you're gonna act a fool, you know. Like at that gas station, right? That was high levels of nigga nucleic acid.
Yeah.
I mean, the sheer chaos in that 2 minutes. And what it is that you really have a people who just 500 years ago were living in mud huts throwing spears at each other. You brought them to an advanced civilization, and they still have not killed off the inner nigga. And so that's why you have a lot of these Walmart events, Waffle House events, these events at Chuck E. Cheese where you just see niggas acting like fools committing crimes, because you gotta address the inner nigga, man. You do. And black conservative.
Yeah, I think I just want to say this real quick.
Does that make any sense though?
Yeah, no, I don't know if you ever heard of that book about Thomas Sowell, Black Rednecks and White Liberals.
Yeah,
where he basically argues that black ghetto culture originated from the Southern redneck culture that was prominent in the
That's my only
South.
Disagreement with him.
You disagree with that? I mean, he says that ultimately comes from what he calls cracker culture, which is Welsh, Scots, English, North Britons. That is what he claims, So that's I think there's a lot of questions about where a lot of this stuff comes from. I mean, you're getting into some very controversial takes, but I'm just saying, I just want to throw that in there.
I'm very familiar. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with him.
Yeah.
And again, and everybody's entitled to their opinion and perspective. The black man, whether he is in Africa, in America, in South America, the black man, I hate to say this, literally just 500 years ago, for the most part, was living a primitive life. And we were never unified as a people. We never unified our tribes, our language. We never had a lingua franca. We never fortified Africa. We never had infrastructure at a high level. And that is why people easily came in and extracted resources and conquered. We were always divided because we had a lot of infighting, just like how we have now. You got kids running around still gang banging. It's the year 2023. Niggas will be doing that until 33, if you ask me.
Yeah.
You gotta destroy this primitive culture, this primitive gang culture, this primitive smoking weed and drinking alcohol culture that Negroes do. You gotta destroy it here in Africa. You gotta destroy it all over the globe. You know, you gotta get rid of it, man. To go into this new age. That's just me though talking, man. I don't know. Mean, hopefully I didn't go too far out the box, man.
No, I mean I think that you bring up some valid points to a certain extent. I'm not necessarily sure if I would make it more of a evolutionary thing, but I think that, you know, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think we do agree though, in terms of, you know, the key root of the issue is the culture. And I think that that's something that has to be acknowledged in the change, and to stop looking outside at everybody else and saying,
yeah,
well, it's your fault that you did, that this happened, and yada, 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 and just kind of, you know, take responsibility and just, you know, move forward. So, I mean, you know, I think that we can come to an agreement on that.
Okay. Do you have time for like one?
Yeah. I got 30 minutes.
Okay. Oh, you got 30 more minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm only going to bring up one person, just one question. I'm gonna drop you down. Just one question.
Yeah.
Let me drop the link. One question, and it's the first person. Well, I don't know if it'll be the first person because I don't want to get trolled. So what say you about Crowder and that situation with his wife?
Honestly, man, like when I first heard about it and I first saw it, I was like, man, I'm single. I'm not married. And, you know, I want to get married. You know, I want to find the right one, and I want to do the whole, you know, traditional thing. But, you know, I do consume quite a bit of like the red pill content, and I do listen to the arguments that the red pill community puts out there against, you know, trad cons is what they call them. And I think that there's some valid points about how, you know, today relationship dynamics are so much different than they were back in the 40s and the 50s. You know, that we're in a whole different ball game in terms of dynamics between men and women. And then considering how, you know, divorce laws and custody laws are all skewed towards women, and the marketplace for dating when it comes to women, that Crowder situation, when I first saw it, really made me depressed. Okay. In the sense that, well, I thought, well, dang, if this is what he going through, like what hope does, you know, any man have? You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I saw the video. I'm not going to comment too much on the actual video itself because it was only 3 minutes. You can't really judge a relationship based off a 3-minute argument. I know a whole lot of people were sympathetic towards Crowder's wife because she was like 8 months pregnant at the time or something like that. Okay. And I get that. I understand that. But it was only like 3 or 4 minutes. If you capture video of any couple arguing for 3 or 4 minutes, they're going to say the most messed up stuff in the world. I mean, I was in a long-term relationship for a long time, for years. And I mean, we said some crazy stuff to each other. You know what I'm saying? That if you saw it in, you know, just a 3-minute segment, you would think that, okay, this is insane. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like that's every relationship. So I haven't personally talked about it because of that aspect. I simply don't know. And I'm not really super interested in trying to analyze other people's relationships when it's just so much I don't know about the relationship on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. You know, my take is this. Certain people were calling him a monster. And I totally did a show on this the other day, and I said the same thing you're saying. 3 minutes, we don't know what happened before that. We don't know the dynamics of how they communicate with each other. To me, it looked just like a disagreement. But for people to call him a monster, whether they are conservatives or liberals, is absolutely egregious to me. I think this is a ploy to undermine Steven Crowder. Because if he's a monster, my question is, what is Adolf Hitler then? If he's a monster, what is Jeffrey Dahmer then? You know, so it's like I feel like that terminology, monster on a man, is the margin is too spread. The margin is too wide, and I feel like that it sets a precedent to call any man a monster.
Yeah.
And when a man is called a monster, he's put in the same category. Hey man, that's Hitler. If you ask me.
Yeah.
So what are the metrics here?
Well, he didn't hit her. He didn't put his hand. I mean, as far as we know,
he didn't do anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and again, some of the same people were calling him a monster. And there was a lot of channels that I went to, black women especially. I challenged them. I said, "Oh, okay. Well, what is R. Kelly? Because you black women love R. Kelly. What about Chris Brown? He's 6'3", 200 pounds, athletic beyond belief. He ragdoll Rihanna, but you black women love Chris Brown. So what is Chris Brown then?" But it's just the fact that people pick and choose who to like, who not to like in this country. And you know they don't like conservatives, and you know they don't like Steven Crowder. I could give a damn about if Steven Crowder had a toxic work environment. He's the boss. So, you know, we've lost the whole boss employer dynamic. I don't give a damn what he was doing in the studios. And some people brought that up. But the fact of the matter is that you're bringing up things that have nothing to do with what happened outside in that backyard. The man isn't a monster. He wants his wife who's pregnant to be at home, because at the end of the day, if something were to happen to her, if she would have taken that car, he would be responsible. If it was a car accident, somebody pointed her out and said that's Crowder's wife, he would have been responsible. He did the work of the Lord that day by putting his foot down. That's all I gotta say about it, though. Hold on, I got some people. I got one person. I'm only gonna bring on one person, though. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Blacks, you got a question? What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Everything's
cool. Black conservative perspective here, man. The dude is literally
nice to meet you, man.
Like the dude is like Michael Jordan, man. And
hey, just a little bit, man. Just a little bit.
What'd you say, Black?
My one question is this, man. When are you gonna start doing lives? Lord have mercy. We've just been waiting.
We wait. Well, you know, man, lives are not my bread and butter, man. I'm not that familiar with the technology behind it, StreamYard and stuff like that. I like to organize my channel like a news channel where I can do segments similar to what you would see on regular news or whatever, because to me, you know, I like to be able to get behind the studio and to edit things and to piece things together and to tell a story and then to watch it and say, okay, you know, is this, you know, the way I want it to be? It's like creating art. And I think with live streams, I'm not as, I don't think I'm able to be as creative with live streams. Sure. So I will do live streams with other people. Like, for example, I'll go on Chaotic's channel or anybody else's channel, and I have no problems doing a live stream and having a conversation. But in regards to how I present my information and how I've created my YouTube channel and the structure, I just don't see how live streams really fit into what, you know,
what you're trying to
do. Exactly. Now, if I in the future was to get a whole production team and then to have them, you know, air my segments and to, you know, put in the videos and stuff like that, it would be a little bit different. But that's just not where I'm at right now. I like being able to have pre-recorded content where I can really focus on driving home the information I'm trying to drive home.
And that's completely relevant and fair. May I ask another question?
Go ahead.
Okay, absolutely. So obviously your namesake, Black Conservative Perspective. How do we get more Black people involved in this movement? There's so many. I know you don't have all the answers. You know, you're just one guy, but you know, obviously you're doing it successfully. And I don't know what your metrics are. I don't know how many Black people watch you, but obviously you got quite a few, because I'm one of them, and I just wanted to know what your thoughts were about that.
Yeah, well, I think more so than anything, I mean, me personally, I try to be as relatable as possible. I try to convey information in a simple way. I try to, you know, look at the way I dress. Like, I'm not super formal or anything like that. Like, I feel like I present myself as somebody that is relatable. Now, in terms of getting Black people to join the movement altogether, because that's just what I do personally, how I present myself, and I think that's kind of how it works. I mean, I'm pretty, like, people always come to me and say, man, I think that you got a lot of white people to watch your stuff. And I'm like, bro, you don't understand. I've been recognized in public. It's mostly by Black people, overwhelmingly by Black people. Like, I'm so serious. Like, when I get recognized in public, it is a Black person, like, 70-80% of the time. That's
Yeah.
not a joke. Like I think
Yeah.
I've only been recognized in person by a white person like maybe once or twice. Okay. So,
Yeah.
you know, I overall in terms of the Black conservative movement, you know, man, honestly, I'm not entirely sure how you're going to get some people on board, because it's the same question about, well, how do you get people to not vote Democrat? When you're selling people victimhood, when you're selling people government handouts, when you're selling people it's not your fault, you don't need to take personal responsibility, it is hard to get them to actually agree with that and to say, hey, no, you're right. Oh, yeah, we are, you know, messing up our own communities or whatever. It is our fault. We need to do this. We need to do that. People don't want to do that. They just want an easy, simple explanation to why things are the way they are. It's the white man. They want easy solutions, more government. And it's just hard to sell that to people. You know what I'm saying? So I think more so than anything, how to grow the movement is just having more people like yourself and Chaotic and, you know, others, Tatum, whoever. We come together, we do our own thing, and we keep, you know, spreading message and putting out content and, you know, doing what we're doing in order to try to get people to wake up to the message. Really, I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Absolutely, man. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Blacks. Oh,
Thank
sorry,
you.
go ahead, Black.
No, I was going to say, and last question, I'm just going to plug myself. How do I get a bag of loudmouth flavors into your hand, man? I do sell spices, and I'd like to just send you some and see and have your takes on it. That's all.
Do you want me to sponsor it on my channel? Is that what you're asking?
Hey, scared man, dead man, and closed mouths don't get fed. Absolutely.
Well, listen, I'll be more than happy to do it. But to be honest with you, I have a team that handles all that stuff. So when it comes to sponsorships, so I can try it and I can, give you feedback on it. But in regards to it actually me being able to put it on my channel and to, sponsor it, I would have to go through my team and they handle all that stuff. And it's a very formal process.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Otherwise, if it was just me, if I had control over it, then I'll be like, no problem. But
well, you just let me know.
As long as it's a good product, I would say
it's a very good product. I stand by it, and plenty of other people do. But hey, however I get in contact with your team, I would more than gladly send it their way. Absolutely.
Yeah, just send me an email. And if you want to send me some, then we can talk about that as well too. hello@gforemanbcp.com. You can send me an email, and I will forward your information to my team, and then see if you can get something worked out behind the scenes.
hello@gforeman@bcp.com.
Yeah, it's on my website, gforemanbcp.com.
Yeah, I got it. I saw it. Absolutely. Yeah. I'll be there, man. Well, thank you for answering my questions, and thank you, Chaotic, for bringing me up here.
No problem.
No problem. Yeah. Thank you so much, Blacks. Black conservative perspective. Am I too radical? Am I too blunt? People say that I'm detrimental to the community. Me. Why do you believe that people will say I'm detrimental, but not the man who leaves his children to a single mother, the gangbanger, the dope fiend? Why is the Black conservative detrimental to the Black community, according to a lot of FBA and other Negroes, particularly on the left? Why do you believe so? Or even if you believe that at all?
Well, I mean, I ask that question all the time, man. I mean, I feel like I've asked the question of why are we called slurs? Why are we called Toms and sellouts and such, when quite literally everything we're saying is good for, like, objectively, like, good for Black people, right? The things that we talk about, the things that we preach or whatever. But the gangbanger, the thug, the criminal is never called a sellout. They're never called a Tom. They're never called a slur. They're never demonized. In fact, again, we're calling these people. We have a whole political movement dedicated towards making sure they stay in the streets and they can commit as much crime as possible and terrorize as many Black people as possible. I honestly don't know for the life of me. I think it's one of those things. It's just like I was telling your friend. It's easier to, listen to people who are telling you it's not your fault. It's the white man's fault. the government is a solution where the government needs to do more. You're owed reparations. Okay. You know, your ancestors built this country, which is true. Black people, you know, did help contribute to the building of this country along with white people, along with Asian people. I mean, again, that's a conversation I really like. It really annoys me because there's a lot of back and forth. Who built this country? Now black people mad or the some of the black people, that Hispanics claiming that they built the country. There was one segment on like NBC News or something where Hispanics was like, "Oh, we built the country" or something. And I'm like, everybody contributed to building the country, man. Like, let's not try to make it overly complicated in regards to the contributions on who built the country. I'm just saying that everybody contributed, and that, you know, you're not necessarily owed something. And it's hard when, you know, people are telling you you're not owed anything. You have all the opportunities sitting in front of your face right now. You just got to take responsibility and do it. It's hard to follow those people. It's hard to, you know, really self-reflect, okay, to take responsibility. And I think that's why black conservatives are demonized, because we're seen as, well, we're aligning with white men, right? So white people, or more specifically white conservative, has the same type of mentality, to pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of mentality. And they see that as, well, you're traitorous. You're aligning with them. You're not aligning with our struggle, the black struggle. And I'm like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about when you talk about the black struggle. All I know is the struggle, right? And I feel like I got the same struggle as everybody else. We're all a little different in regards to our come up, but everybody has unique challenges in their life. You know, the white boy that grows up in the trailer park and, you know, with the single parent household around crack and all this other stuff, they got the same challenges. They got the same problems, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a cultural thing. So, you know, I think that it's the reason why we get called at is because people are not comfortable with personal responsibility and accountability. And I think that, you know, it's just much easier to go along with people who tell you that you don't have to take any responsibility, accountability for anything, to be quite honest with you.
Okay, that's a good answer. Bro, this has been great. You have any closing words, man, or anything like that?
You know, not really, man. I mean, I feel like this was a good conversation. Yeah. I feel like people will listen to this conversation and think, oh man, y'all up here just bashing black people. It's like, no, I'm gonna tell you something, man. And this is something that I really do feel is like, when you love your people, you have to, you know, tell the truth. You have to say uncomfortable truths. You know, if I did care about black folks, I always made this argument. If I was a white supremacist, I would be for defunding the police. I would make you dependent on the government. I would let you abort all your black babies so that your population never grows. You know, I would never call out any bad behaviors. I would promote degeneracy because that is the best way to ensure that black people are not successful. So I'm literally doing the exact opposite of what I would do if I was a white supremacist. I am advocating for the exact opposite of what I would argue for or advocate for if I was a white supremacist. So I want people to understand, when conversations are happening like this, it's not because, you know, oh, people trying to profit off of bashing black people and you don't like black people and all that. No, it's because I love black people and I want black people to be better. And I know that black people can be better. I've seen how the great things that black people can do. I mean, you talked about it at the beginning of this whole interview. You kept saying, look at all this stuff that black people have. Look at what black people have done. And people overlook that. They never they never hear that part of it. And that's what really bothers me the most, is like they always focus on what they perceive as the negative, when you can say positive about the positive thing. I'm like, bro, do you understand? 250 years ago, black people were slaves. We went from slaves to, you can argue if you want to count Obama as black, the first black president, and mostly white people voted for him. Yeah. That's an accomplishment in and of itself. Even going through segregation, Jim Crow, again, all the evils of the white man, black people still overcame. And I think that the story of black people is not victimhood. It is overcoming circumstances that aren't necessarily favorable to us. And I think people forget that, and they don't really want to embrace the positive aspect of it, because I'm all about the individual. That's why I really don't care much about the slavery stuff. I'm like, look, you should take all these things and internalize it individually and apply it to your life. You know, that's what my whole thing is: work hard, work smart, take risks. Like I literally, like, if you work hard, right, your craft or whatever, you know, you're gonna find some success. You'll find more success if you work smart. If you do it in a way where you're, you know, smarter in the competition, you're doing more than other competition, and then if you take risk along with it, you're taking risks that other people aren't willing to take, you're gonna find yourself in a better situation than you otherwise would be had you not done those things. And I personally believe in the American dream. I believe that in this country, no matter who you are, if you do those things, you're going to end up in a good place, regardless of whatever, you know, circumstances, you know, or whatever happens, whatever obstacles comes in front of you, because at the end of the day, Black people have a history of overcoming those obstacles and not succumbing to them. And I really hate to see a culture of succumbing to obstacles rather than overcoming obstacles. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I totally do. I totally do. And yes, historically, Black Americans, quote unquote FBAs, have contributed and overcome obstacles, and certainly have, you know, created businesses. It sounds like a broken record. Attended universities, created their own universities, got into almost every avenue of industry. And like I said, this culture that we have now, this subculture of FBA, in my opinion, is attempting to undermine the very overcoming of their own ancestors, because they are trying to be victims for some reason. I don't know why. Quick question though. I don't know if I already asked you this though, but why don't people move back to Africa? You know, let's get into these pro-blackity blacks. Why don't they move back to Africa? Why don't they move to Africa? Not back to Africa, but why don't they move to one of the 57 African countries that are predominantly Black, if not all Black? Well, you know, this could be like a final question, if so. But what about that?
Hey man, well, I ask the question all the time, man. The same question I asked about why we call sellouts and toms when the criminals are praised. I'm just saying, look, they know the truth, bro. They know that America's a great place to be, and America's the only place where you can get rich, making millions of dollars selling Bitcoin, bro. So I mean, like a lot of it is not even really, you know, just the average Black person on the street. You know, the average Black person is doing their thing, trying to, you know, get ahead or whatever. It's the race hustlers, man, that's out here selling this grift that I think is really, you know, poisoning the minds of a lot of people, and not, you know, and making it so people can't really see the bigger picture. But yeah, I mean, everybody knows that Africa is not the place to be if you're Black, right? That your life is going to be significantly worse because of all those things you brought up, right? What's happening in Sudan, you know, what's happening in a lot of these countries. I mean, like, bro, I have no interest in visiting these places. You know, I might go to South Africa, you know, maybe Ghana, something like that. But I'm gonna go to some place that's civilized. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna go to a place that's technologically, you know, modern somewhat.
I was on a panel. It's a good brother that calls in, and he has his own channels called This Might Be Risky. This is actually the video that O'Shea clipped. There was a young lady on there. I think that was the video that he clipped, but it was a young lady on there, part of the LGBT community. She was questioning the freedoms of a Black American. She said, "Oh, well, he's not really free here." I said, "Sweetheart, you know what's so fascinating? You're disrespecting and undermining freedoms in America or American culture when, in fact, you couldn't be lesbian in most, if not all, African countries."
Thanks.
I told her, if you went to Uganda, you would be imprisoned just off the fact that you looked homosexual. Well, she said, "Well, I won't come over there looking like that." I said, "Lady, even if it is known, you could still be in prison. They have some of the harshest, in my opinion, human rights. And listen, if you're gay, be gay. But what I believe in Uganda is going on is, I believe, is even human rights violations. The fact that even if the government gets wind of you being gay, they can imprison you 15 years." And I told her, I said, "You experience freedoms in a white country that you wouldn't even get in a blackity black country." So it is fascinating how we disrespect and undermine, not me and you, but typically this culture of disrespecting America is prevalent in this country to the point where you don't even realize that you literally are free to do whatever you want to do in this country if it ain't against the law. Thank you, Black Conservative Perspective, man. I know I went crazy today, man.
No,
again,
you good, man. It was a good conversation. I appreciate you bringing me on. I enjoyed it. You know, I think that I would love to do this again, and
absolutely.
You know, we can chop it up about whatever issue, whether it be also, I mean, straight politics too. It doesn't have to be about, you know, culture and stuff like that. I thought that this would probably be a good starting point, but I think I am kind of looking for a political partner in regards to just being able to discuss some of these topics. I'm not sure if you watch Dave Rubin channel or Megyn Kelly channel or whatever, but they be having people come on and then they'll talk about, like, you know, something going on in the news or whatever. So I've been thinking about, like, man, maybe if I had somebody come on and just, like, you know, maybe just shoot it about some topic or whatever. Maybe we could do that or something.
Let's do it, man.
You know, and just do like a 5-minute, 10-minute segment on something, you know. You know, so, you know, like I said, if you want to talk about anything, you know, I'm available. Sometimes, not all the times, but I enjoyed the conversation, man. I just hope that people don't get it twisted in regards to the intent and what has actually been said, because you go harder than I do. I try to keep it, you know, pretty PC for the most part, but you know, you go way
and it's funny because people have said I've gotten soft. Like my homeboy Ty in the chat has said, "You're not even chaotic anymore." You know, people have called me the moderate truth now because I've toned it down. But no, I'm still chaotic. And thank you for pointing that out, man. But I definitely want to work on a project like that. Definitely, man. Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. Well, I enjoyed it.
Hey, man, I enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much, Black Conservative Perspective. Thank you so much, bro.
No problem.
Peace. Guys, that was Black Conservative Perspective on the ones and twos, man. Like I said before, I know he's humble about it, but hey, man, he's like Jordan. He's definitely like Jordan, man. Fresh out of college, 1986, when Jordan scored 63 against the Celtics. Let me see here, man. You guys were an incredible audience today. I am going to do a recap after this show. Definitely going to do a recap. I just want to give a big shout out to everybody who dropped the super chat. Hey, Damn the Luck, thank you so much for renewing your membership. Bob with the $20 super chat, thank you so much. Transparency and Merit, thank you so much for coming through. AK Nation, thank you so much for the super chat. Jeffrey, come back to the recap show. I'm going to do a recap. JQ, IRS, Matifi with the euro. The euro is worth more than the dollar, by the way. Thank you so much for the $12 because it's, you know, it's worth more. Let me see. What's up, Kelly? Thank you so much for renewing. Kelly, I think you're a new member. Thank you so much for being a new member. Mr. S, man, what's up, man? Mr. S. Woo! You gotta be careful, Mr. S. But salute to you, Mr. S, for the £5. Bob, SKC, man, thank you so much. Matifi, what's up? Guys, please go over to Black Conservative Perspective and subscribe to his channel. He's an excellent content creator, man. But other than that, I'm gonna come back in like 10 minutes. Excuse me, I'm gonna come back in 10 minutes. Put a 1 in the chat if you're looking for me to come back in 10 minutes. CT plus BCP, Black Conservative Perspective, plus AK Nation. Now that will be an epic panel. Astrophoto says great show. Seven Steel said great show. Thank you so much, Black Suda 5, for coming through. I am going to do a recap. I think this show was excellent. I'm going to do a panel. Thank you guys so much for coming through. Oh, by the way, Rush is in the building, by the way. Hold on for a second. I totally forgot to do this. Guys, if you need any security service, if you are in the state of New York or New Jersey, please call Rush Enterprise at 973-558-4659. That's 973-558-4659. If you need any private security, or if you need security for a brick and mortar, you know, let's say you own a gas station, storefront, or it could be, you know, any type of business, really. Let me see who else is in the building. All right, guys, I got to get the hell up out of here. But I'm coming back, though. I'm coming back in 10 minutes. We're going to do a full-blown panel. Salute to you all. I think today is the last day of April. Let's rock it out. Let's rock it out for the next panel. but I am going to come, we're going to just have a full out panel. Hopefully you guys can cam up, other than that, man, salute to you all. If you, don't come back, this might be risky. Proud of you, Chaotic. Thank you so much. Black Conservative Perspective on the Lizive. Yes. Yeah. Oh man, look, man, Black Conservative Perspective, in my opinion, is one of, if not the greatest conservative content, and I would just say content creator on YouTube. He does excellent videos. The dude, and this is the difference between old people like myself and young people. Man, this dude puts out like 5 videos. Listen, live streams are hard, but doing uploads are harder. That's why I don't do uploads. Uploads are absolutely hard. It takes talent. The fact that Black Conservative Perspective puts out 5 videos a day, every single day, it lets me know that his work ethic is through the roof. He's on that level with Kobe, Michael Jordan in my book, man. I told you, if the guy would have been on the Titanic, it would not have sunk. He would have been going throughout the ship, just putting like stuff in the holes and, trying to make sure the ship didn't sink. That's how great of a work ethic that he has. Other than that, man, I'm going to be back, though. Give me a second. All right, salute to everybody. Positivity is coming your way. I'm going to do a recap in a minute. Give me a second. Thank you guys for coming through again.